let's jump on to some listener questions. We've got a listener question from a long-time fan of the pod, Hugh Tyndall. Does Razor think domination year on year by one team is good for the growth of rugby in the APAC region? Kind of just what we were touching on earlier.
If I could start, I think it's brilliant that Hugh Tyndall asks us what Razor's thinking. Like we have that kind of insight. We're that well connected.
We have that insight. I don't know what you're talking about. Realistically, I think Razor does not care.
He just wants to win, man. He just wants to win.
He's fighting for his job. He's fighting for the All Blacks coach job that he now has, that role. He doesn't care at all, to be honest. Like, I think
a really simple way to show an example of that is signing Levi Almua. Do you know what I mean? Just like, or signing Pablo Matera. Like the signings, he's ruthless. He's just like, give me the best. Our team's already the best and we have all the best players. I don't care. Still find the better ones. If you have to get them from other countries, get them.
What's that? I'm 5 centers down. Yeah, don't worry. I've got another international one ready. Look, I think to answer Hugh Tyndall's question, I think there's two ways of looking at that, right? Like, I assume the way that he's phrased the question is he's saying he doesn't think it is good for the growth. And the argument for that is obviously going to be if it's so predictable that, the long running joke is Super Rugby is a competition of 10 or 12 or 15 teams playing it out through 15 regular rounds and then a quarterfinal, semi-finals and finals so that the Crusaders can be awarded the Super Rugby Championship trophy. And, if it's that predictable, maybe the fans don't get that engaged with it. But the counter argument to that for me is if the Crusaders keep raising the bar, then everyone has to keep getting better to chase them. So I think there is something to be said for them always pushing the envelope and always being such a dominant side in that everyone will get better. And we've seen it from the Chiefs in particular this year. Like, they are just heads and shoulders above where they were last year. And it's because they have to be. And they've got the cattle as well. So, yeah, I actually think that in a way it is good and tests the rest of the players.
Is it making Aussie rugby better?
The players, yeah, 100%. Is it making them, is it giving us more fans and that kind of thing? No, not really. But I think for the players that are in the competition, yeah, I think it makes them a lot better. It's just, I guess, short-term versus long-term view as well, right? Like, if they win every year for the next 20 years, maybe we get to the point where Australian fans stop watching and then it becomes a game that we can't watch. But Razor's moving on, mate. He's done. He's going to the All Blacks. Next year, they don't make finals.
It's true. Well, I think this year was the first year we saw some real. I mean, yes, they'd always been slow starters, but real vulnerabilities with the Crusaders. And it was the first time that it was ever in doubt. The fantasy rule of when in doubt, just pick a Crusader to begin with. We weren't. That wasn't first and foremost at the front of our minds. But I don't know. I think the Crusaders are good for Australian footy indirectly in the players that we get from them, aka Pete Samu, Nick Frost from the academy, any other players that want to go over to that academy and then make their way to Australian footy. Fantastic. I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Cool. All right. Well, let's push on to the news. Kicking us off, Toulouse beat La Rochelle 29-26 in the top 14 grand final. Have either of you watched that or the highlights? I haven't had a chance yet.
I watched the highlights, and I just love the sensationalized social media responses to this. Everyone's going, Roman and Tamak is the new Andre Pollard, costing his team the championship. He's blown it, blah, blah, blah. Last couple of minutes, there he is running from 60 out, just breaking through. No hole, really. Runs an overs line and then cuts through another little small hole, runs 60 and scores to win the match for them. And all of a sudden, he's the hero, and everyone's going, oh, this is why France is going to win the World Cup because they're big players turning up in big moments. Well, apparently he was a villain 1 minute ago. So I love that.
But that's the French passion, though, like
the Twitter. It was everyone, mate. It wasn't just the French.
Yeah, true.
But let's be honest, though, right? Like, if you go watch that try, there is no doubt that is a try that if that was in Super Rugby, everyone in the Northern Hemisphere would be going, geez, that's just bad defense. That was woeful defense. Like, good on him for doing that. But that was an absolute atrocious attempt by a few blokes to make a tackle in a really, really important part of that game. And if that's not highlighted when they highlight that in Super Rugby and they just go, Super Rugby's got bad D, it's just hypocritical. Like, good on him, but that was atrocious.
I don't know. Like, I think about D-Mac cutting through for that semi-final, like setting up that last try with his run. No one's saying that was bad D. It was just D-Mac being a freak of nature.
Yeah, I was going to say...
have Northern Hemisphere talk about it.
The best thing about Intermac's try was really the celebration afterwards. He put it down, and they put the hands up and ran out to the crowd like he had just scored the best try ever been scored. I'll tell you who made a similar celebration, but scored a far more impressive try, and that was Lester Fainga'anuku from that try this week. He was pumped. I was like, he was definitely a little bit more due that type of celebration, but
yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was insane. But yeah, I'll definitely be keen to watch that game.
Guys, next one, Kurtley Beale fronts court on sexual assault charges after the Bondi pub allegations. He's pleaded not guilty. I watched his interview after the fact, and he basically was interviewed on the steps out the front. He was tearing up, obviously very distraught with the whole thing. It's a big news item because obviously he's had to miss the entire Super Rugby season for it, and you would think it's almost certainly going to cost him his last World Cup berth as well as one of the great players of Australian rugby. I don't know. All I can say for this one is obviously we're all watching it to see what happens, but at the same time, if he's not guilty, geez, I hope he gets off, and if he is guilty, geez, I hope he goes to prisons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sick of losing gun players in the Rugby World Cup years. Last time was Folau, this time's KB. It's like, just do it next year or something, Like,
there's a decent chance the All Blacks will pick him up with that criminal record, though.
Oh, got him. Or spoiler alert, the South Africans as well. We'll get to that in a second. But
I would just say though, the other interesting thing was they said they had footage before and after the incident with the two of them together, which they reckon is going to play a huge role in determining kind of what the outcome of this was. So obviously that's pretty good if you can see that they have like a tense interaction after, or everything's completely fine and comfortable. Like that's going to weigh pretty heavily.
Mate, have we just become a Criminal Minds podcast? What's going on?
We have.
Let's push on. All right, Ben Donaldson signs 2 years for the Force. I think we talked about that. Was in the rumour mill a week or two ago, and with Will Harris also expected to go. So I
don't know if you were here, Cargie. Who's your starting 10 for the Force next year? Everyone being fit.
For me, still Pasatoa if he's fit. I love that. You know how much I love Pasatoa. But
yeah.
So Pasatoa is my starting 10.
And the Waratahs?
Harrison probably.
I love it. Good answers. Such good answers.
Are these the same answers that you made?
Any disagreement there?
Me? No. Look, to be honest, I want to see Will Harrison get a crack and be Harrison be uninjured for a little while. So I want to see him get a crack.
Yeah, love that we have consensus on two, just like outlandishly rogue picks.
Ridiculous. The ones that probably won't happen. For sure.
Yeah, that's right.
They're the least likely.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
All right, now pushing on. Let's talk about some squads, some World Cup squads. The All Black squad. We can push through this one pretty quickly, but a couple of surprises. 5 new players, 5 uncapped players in the squad. But the positions that stood out for me were Dane Cole, 36-year-old Dane Cole's getting the nod above Asafa Amua. So just kind of, I guess, going for experience. And also Amua hasn't really taken the opportunity to light it up this year. So he's been given kind of a final chance in the All Blacks 15 over in Japan in a couple of games to, see if he can be elevated or not. But, Cole has certainly shown in Super Rugby this year he can still do it. But
no, not at all.
No, he hasn't. I completely agree.
He's been absolute junk. The only time we've mentioned his name is because he's been a grub. He hasn't done his streaks down the sideline. He hasn't been that good in tight. He literally has just tried to annoy other players. And I think to a point where it's affecting his game and he goes, but it's getting me wins. No, it's not, mate. Everyone else doing the work's getting you wins. And you're being an absolute pest on the field. He was
pretty annoying, though.
I think his only crowning moment was pissing off Cody Taylor to get him yellow carded, which I think won the Hurricanes that game. But at the same time, I think he's horrendous, man. I think he's going nowhere if he gets games at the World Cup. And I say this as a giant Dane Cole's fan in parts of his career. I just think he's past it. I think the only thing that has saved him is the fact that Amua still can't throw a line out very accurately. And I think he's probably the biggest competition. Who do you pick if not those two? If not him at third, I guess, is the big argument.
I mean, I guess, look, the other thing you'd say is, I mean, he's arguably there to run waters. You know what I mean? Like, it's Taylor and Takiaho all day.
Yeah.
He's the backup, right? And he's there for some experience around the squad. But
if they both went down, would you want to start him or someone else?
I mean, I'd want to start, if they both went down, I'd want to start Abua, but that's just, if he's available.
Yeah, I should never have asked you that. I knew the answer.
Yeah, true. All right, on to back rowers. Samapeni Finau, bit of a bolter in there. And I even put in brackets and Shannon Frizzell, who, of course, has been pretty gun. But
he's
you
a
have
lot
to say,
this year, though.
You have to say lucky for his form this year. Being picked over Hoskins Tutu, Akira Ioane, and I don't know, I chucked Ethan Blackadder in there. I know he's kind of been injured all season, or most of the season and whatever, but huge, I think. I think Blackadder, I was very surprised that at least one of Hoskins, Akira, and Blackadder wasn't there for now, at least. And
Akira does not surprise me. The guy's had an awful year, let's be honest. I think Hoskins is very unlucky to miss out. I think he's not even in the All Blacks 15, was he?
No, he wasn't.
He was just either completely overlooked or something else is going on that we don't know about.
Yeah, and Ethan Blackadder the same. Like I think he has to be an injury, surely.
Yeah, I think he is. But look, it makes very little sense that those guys are out. Mind you,
Finau, I reckon, a perfect Test 6 as well. Like he's just that big physical beast that can have that physical dominance at any level, I reckon.
Well, I guess that's the interesting part, isn't it? Is that it's it's locked in Artie Severe at 8, Sam Cane at 7. It's just who plays at 6, really. And what they got Jacobson or Finau, and with Papali being the 7 backup, or Frizzell. It's basically Frizzell, Jacobson, or Finau is who you're having a shot at. So
I'm surprised Jacobson got picked, to be honest with you. I know they were raving about him early in the season, but he had a couple of cracky games. And I think it has been an uptick in form, but at All Blacks level, I'm just not sure he's there, to be honest. Not in the form he's in. I think he needs to get a lot better.
I agree.
For sure. Halfbacks, we've got, I just mentioned Finlay Christie and Roygaard picked over Brad Weber. Now, I think Roygaard, we can all agree saying he probably deserved being picked. You wouldn't be surprised if he was left out, it being a World Cup year, but, not surprised him being in there. But for mine, Finlay Christie over Brad Weber. What do you guys think about that?
Look, in personally, I think Roygaard's got to be in there. He's probably the future. But I don't think Finlay Christie's done enough. And Weber's still fighting at the back end of the season, and he's had a pretty good season. I think I'd be picking Weber over Finlay Christie, my personal belief.
Yeah, it might be the balance. Like all three of those halfbacks kind of bring different things. So it might be there's more of a balance, but they're more different players between the three of them. But I'm not sure.
The thing that Finlay Christie brings that's different is that he's less good than the others.
Finlay Christie's defense was pretty exceptional in the back half of the year, I would say. That's his one big plus. Saved a lot of tries.
It's not normally what you're picking your halfback on, though. But he is a very good player. Don't get me wrong. But I think Weber should be above him.
We've got Dallas McLeod, the biggest bolter of the year. So I didn't assign that to Samapeni Finau, but McLeod definitely the biggest bolter of the year.
Well, wrong choice. Good on him for
how.
He's a crusader.
Man, he's played in a wing all year. Like, what is going on? The bloke maybe started 5 games at centre. Like, this blows my mind.
Yeah, he's playing wing because he's not good enough to play in the centres for the Crusaders, and he wouldn't be playing wing if Severis wasn't injured. Like, how does that guy make the All Black squad?
It's a kick in the guts for Jack Goodhue, who's definitely established himself above Dallas McLeod in the back end of the year, and yet then they pick McLeod. Like I thought he's had a great year. Definitely not a winger, like awful winger, but a very talented young centre. But to be picked in the All Black squad, it's just way too early. I'd pick so many players above him personally.
Yep, agreed for sure.
Thank you.
And then the last one is Shooter not getting the call up. So Foster's gone for Narawa.
Look, Foster, in all honesty, is an absolute goose for not picking Shooter Stevenson. He would be the second man wearing an All Blacks 15 jersey for me, and that would be after Will Jordan. That's it. He's the second. I wouldn't put another guy in front of him. I wouldn't vote him back. Look, D-Mac for me would be maybe a 23 bench cover because he's 10-15 role and coming off the bench. Shooter Stevenson, I'd probably be starting at 15.
You're insane.
if it wasn't Will Jordan. He's and you can throw him on the wing as well.
Like, I saw Harry tee that up and was ready to chop it down. He was just waiting. It was great. No, I agree with you. Look, I mean, I think it's unfortunate because Shooter's had such a good season, but Narawa has also had an amazing season and really been like an amazing 14. You have to say. I think maybe in the last couple of weeks,
you can do 14 and 15, mate.
No, but so can Narawa. I know you haven't actually seen it, but Narawa's played 15 all through the NPC.
No, mate.
Narawa is not playing 15. Yeah, Narawa's not 15 for the fullback, for the All Blacks. Let's be honest.
That's true. All right, but with back three for them, we locking in Leicester 11, Talaya 14, Will Jordan 15. Is that job done?
100% put it in now. Unless Geordie Barrett realises that the 12 experiment didn't work, that's the only way it might not happen.
Too late. Yeah. Will Jordan's 15.
I think it did work. It's unless Havili was around, and Havili's not around, so he's 12. Now, let's push on to the Tongan and Samoan squads. Harry, do you want to speed run us through the Tongan squad?
Yeah, look, the big thing for us here was obviously all the players that have been brought across from the other teams. So you got, the likes of Israel Folau, Lepeti Tamani, and now Adam Coleman named from the Wallabies. You got Malakai, Fekatoa, Ben Tamifuina, George Moala, Vea Fafita, and also the New Zealand 7-star Peter Aki as well, all coming across. And that makes for a cracking 15. Nelson's had a crack at it. You want to go through it, Nels?
Yeah, so back three, Folau, Piatau, and Solomoni Kata on the wings. We've got Fekatoa and Peter Aki in the centres. You also got Moala there, and you could shift Fekatoa to 12. You got William Havili at 10 with Takalua, the captain, at 9. But you've also got Augustine Pulu and Manu Paya there as well. Sione Vaialanu, Solomoni Funaki, and Vaya Fafita, probably as then your 6 with Lepeti Tamani covering. In the locks, Lausi and Coleman, the ex-Wallaby. Then in the front row, you got Tamiafuna at tight head, Samuela Moli at hooker, and Fisihoi at loose head. That is an outstanding team.
You reckon that's Lausi will start?
Yeah, Lausi's a weapon. He played a lot for them recently as a starting lock, and he's the guy that gets the nod for me there.
The small island. I haven't said his name for a long time. How good. There's some pretty amazing players there. I think Piatau played 15 for Lau on the wing, which I think they ran out last time they played. And even I'd pick. As much as I've loved Israel Folau at fullback over the years, Charles Piatau is hands down the better.
Personally, I think I prefer that, to be fair. Folau on the wing.
Yep. Nels, do you want to take us through also, sorry, I know you've just taken us through the Tongan squad, but you did the Samoan squad as well.
Yeah, so similar to what Harry's touching on the players coming across, we've got ex-Wallaby Christian Leali'afano. Awesome to see him come across into this Samoa squad. He's been such a servant to Aussie rugby and he's got a phenomenal story behind him. So I'd love to see him get a bit more of a crack here. And we've got All Blacks, ex-All Blacks, Sopawanga, Faumuina, Stephen Luatua, Jeffrey Tumanga Allen coming across. We've also already had the change of allegiance for Paul Ala O'Meal and Tim Nanai Williams. The new one we've got as well is Titi Lamositelli from the USA Eagles as well. He's a tight head prop, big boy. And I think there's a few people upset around world rugby, especially tier 2 people that he's come across.
Yeah, people blowing up over that. I see it as an awesome opportunity for him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't...
Paul Tate, not happy.
Yeah, friend of the pod. Friend of the pod, Paul Tate. Anyway, well, that's for another pod. We won't get into discussing that. Nels, do you want to take us through what you think the likely 15 looks like, or Harry, either one of you?
Yeah, I'll go back line. Nelson can go front. They've got Anari and Tamatini at 9, Sapawanga or Lee Leali'afano at 10. They got so many options at centre. They got Duncan Pauaia. They got Tamua Manu. They've got Le'uila,
D'Angelo Le'uila.
D'Angelo Le'uila. Yeah, he's a gun, actually. Yeah. And Stacey Illy as well. So many options there. On the wings, they got Famai, Nigel R. Wong, and then at fullback, they got Tawala and Nanai Williams as well. So again, so many experienced, established players there. It's a lot more depth than they've had in the past years, I reckon.
Nanai Williams has been playing 10, 13, fullback, wing. They're putting him anywhere at the moment now as well.
Yeah.
Does this mean Levi Aumua is not playing for Samoa because he's keeping himself open for the All Blacks? Is that what we think here?
Yeah, correct. But I don't know if he doesn't make it. You may see him put his hand up late. You never know.
He might chuck his hand up for the Wallabies too. Who knows?
Well, I mean, the other thing is, if he's playing for the Crusaders next year, you'd have to think he's going to walk into the All Blacks jersey next year.
Over Dallas
He's going to be 29 next year. So
Over Dallas
I said to Harry, he's come across. He's obviously been come across with a hope for the Rugby World Cup, not for getting an All Blacks cap next year. If we jump across into the forwards, we've got Jordan Lay at loose head. Lots of options at hooker. Polai Nuia or Lamb or Malolo, as well as at hooker. Ala Alatoa, I reckon, at tight head. But you've got Famuina, Alaomio, Tumanga Allen, and Alamositeli, who we just said from USA. Alianuisi from Toulon and Chris Vui in the locks. Talani Siu or Miracle Faialangi at 6. Lamb and Jordan Taufua in to round out that back row. Awesome.
They just need a 7, man. Jack Lamb's a bit old now.
They've got a few guys.
There's Mutunga as well.
I reckon they'll go him. Jack Lamb's nowhere near that side this year.
Yeah.
Taufua had played a bit of 7 for them as well. So that's another one that they could use, shifting him across into 7.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They're going to have a brutal game plan. They're not going to worry about pilfering the ball. They're just going to try and break you in half so you drop the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
And last point in the news for the week, we've got the Sharks signing the Springbok winger and absolute lightning in a bottle, Apuwe Dianti, after his 4-year ban. I'd all but forgotten about Dianti, but he was incredible in his... I think we put down he was the World Rugby Breakthrough Player in 2018. In that year, he kind of was the most exciting player in Super Rugby, and then in World Rugby scored some gun tries on the wing for the Springboks.
I think if he's in New Zealand, mate, his career will be done. He's over 27 and he's a winger. But South Africa, you can play in 38 to 40. So he's got he was an absolute weapon when he was around. If he's got that same explosive speed and that same strength, which, for obvious reasons, who knows? But he's an exceptional talent. So I'm glad he's done his time and he's back and he's got an opportunity to make a name for himself again.
And we've said for obvious reasons, but we should point out the ban was for PEDs, for performance enhancing drugs. So just because other people might have forgotten, similar to what I did. But no, sorry, what were you going to say?
Look, he's an exciting guy. I'm happy to see him back in rugby. 4 years is a long time. That's his time served. I think he should be welcomed back in and still have to obviously earn his way back in. But if he's coming out and dominating and playing like he did pre, his ban, good on him and deserves to be back.
And what? So he obviously was playing for the Lions when we used to be watching him, but signing for the Sharks. I think if the Sharks still have Mapimpi as well, those are some 2 gun wingers to have. That's all I'll say. But
there's a lot of gun wingers in South Africa at the moment. I don't think it matters which team you go to.
That's very true.
Guys, last story for those on YouTube. I just had to share Nelson Parise. It's pretty brilliant. So if you are watching on YouTube, the joys of Photoshop. Just an ode to the great man with his 142 test caps. I thought it was very good.
Nels, if you don't make that your Twitter profile picture, I'm going to be very disappointed. That's all I'm saying.
At least for the week. At least until the next one.
Come on, mate.
Okay, I'll do it. Make it happen.